So our next speaker is a PhD in physics from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He currently works as a professor at the Asian Institute of Management. His research interests include complexity science, network science, and statistical physics. So please join me to welcome Dr. Christopher Monterola, who will be discussing artificial intelligence and information science. Chris.
Good afternoon, everyone. So again, I'm Christopher Monterola. The school that I'm leading at AIM, the name of that school is School of Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. And I think that is one of the things that I would like to emphasize today, how science, technology, and innovation should be together with them in entrepreneurial mindset for it to be scalable. So it will be all about force. First, let me put a context to my presentation by providing 4 macro technological trends that I think is shaping the world today. First, we are now so familiar about the idea of smart devices, smart cities. And as a result of this smart instrumentation, we are producing a lot of data. In 1 second, this is the total amount of data that you can produce. 2.6 million emails sent, 50,000 gigabytes of internet traffic, all in 1 second. In fact, in the last 2 years, 90% of the data are created, just in the last 2 years. Now, this idea, together with the fact that we now have bigger data storage, so most of you will be familiar with these devices here. This was the device in 1960s. This is the device in the year I was born. When I was in college, this is that device. Note that the sizes of these devices, in 1981, I'm using a 1.4 MB device. Okay? Right now, this will not be even sufficient to store 1 photograph from a smartphone. The strength or the size of this device have grown all the way to about 1 million times. You can see now a USB with a 1 terabyte capacity. A lot of data. This data can now be stored in a very cheap manner. And at the same time, we now have higher and cheaper computing power. So this is the first supercomputer. The cost is 6 million. The size is almost similar to a bus, bigger than a bus. You can fit a bus with this size. It can execute 5,000 instructions per second. It's very fast. But if you look at the iPhone 7 can execute 1 million times greater than that. 25 billion instructions. And look at the price. That is just about $400 compared to $6 million. A lot of data, okay, bigger data storage, cheaper data storage, and powerful computer. As a result of this, new paradigms and new business models are being developed. And we have what is referred to as, this is essentially the basis of the so-called Industry 4.0. Because of this information, we know how people are generally connected. We now have a better understanding of how people interact with various institutions. So this is a Barcelona data of those who are using ATM cards. And we also know how people are moving. This is a UK data of airplanes arriving at UK in London terminals. And since we know urban mobility, we have a better understanding of how diseases, gossips, and information are propagating. So this is an H1N1 propagation, and you can model it quite accurately, how it propagates and eventually impacting global outbreak. And that is the reason why they refer to data as the new oil. Okay, data being the new oil. If you look at the top 5 most valuable companies nowadays, these are no longer about energy. These are no longer energy companies. Most of these are tech companies, the Amazon, the Google, Apple, Microsoft. And we have, in general, a better understanding of the nature of human. But the problem is, okay, this understanding is advantageous if you know it. But if you don't, then there is a problem. The future is generally not evenly distributed. Ang mundo ay isang magandang aklat pero para doon sa mga marunong magbasa. My position for today, my position statement and my main statement for today is through data science in AI, we can close the gap between action and ambition, between ideas and implementation. And I will be presenting some of the works that we have done to actually show that this is the case. So first, let me give you a very short idea of what data science is all about. Oil itself is not useful if you will not be able to extract it and refine it. Data science is the end-to-end process of extracting and cleaning data, looking for patterns, building predictive models, all the way down to creating insights, communicating these stories, and then eventually using it for making decisions or policies. This is data science. The process from extracting all the way to creating policies and making decisions. And AI is one of the most important components of data science. The idea of AI is anything that enables computer to mimic human intelligence. How important is AI in the current business landscape? We now realize that in general, especially when it comes to quantitative decisions, people are very weak. In fact, the last two Nobel Prizes in economics, Kahneman and Thaler, their main idea, the reason why they won Nobel Prize in economics is because they are saying that people are very inferior compared to machine. We are limited by our intrinsic biases, utilization bias, endowment bias, etc. And one of that, of course, is because we can only imagine 3 dimensions. The best sensor that we have is our eyes, and our eyes is used to understanding or looking at 3 dimensions. Therefore, if there are data greater than 3, we normally have a problem. So data-driven decisions are the new normal. And in fact, when they surveyed 3,000 CEOs of global companies worldwide, they mentioned that in 2017, AI alone impacts their offerings and processes by about 15%, and they expect that it will be up to 63% and 60% by 2022. They have in fact updated this recently, and they are now putting the impact of AI to about 80%. So the Philippine Development Plan from 2017 to 2022, maybe we would like to look at this information because AI will be impacting this country. For one, conservative estimate of the number of potential job loss in the BPO industry will go all the way to 800,000 or maybe 80% in the next 5 to 7 years. And I know that this is something that might happen because in my class, in my deep learning class, I only need 2 sessions to teach how to build chatbots, create chatbots. So now let me point to my main point. How do you close the gap between ambition and action? Let me give 4 examples on these important strategies, why data science and AI can do this. My first statement, with data science and AI, it bridges the gap between the academe, industries, and government agencies. One of the things that I realize is that this gap exists not because academia would like to focus on would like to stay in their ivory tower, or government, they simply don't want to do anything, or industry, they just care about money. The reason why this gap exists is because the core of these different sectors varies. The core of industry is creating value. The core of government agencies is creating impact. And the core of academic institutions is to produce articles, produce papers, create novel work. And what I will be demonstrating here is that these 3 things can all together simultaneously be resolved if you go into data science, if you do data science work or data science projects. So prior to coming to AIM, I've been with AIM for 1 year and 1 month. 7 years ago, I was hired by the Singaporean government to lead to create a team that will be developing models in understanding what are the recipes for a smart city. I was given a $5 million budget, 5 million Singaporean dollar budget. That translates to about 4 million US dollar, or about 200 million pesos, even lower than the pork barrel of our congressman. Our goal is to understand that, and our aim is to help industries and government agencies to innovate through modeling and simulations. And these are some of the projects that we have done with respect to urban complexity. And one thing that I would like to focus here is that we've been engaging academics, we've been engaging startups, we've been engaging industries, and we've been engaging companies, okay, as a result of this project. Let me focus on a specific project where you can see that data science, AI, and modeling in general will allow you to hit and work together with these three sectors. So, why is it important for us? One of our focus is really understanding what are the recipes for a smart city. Why is this important? Because when we create a projection, okay, we realize that eventually everyone will be living in cities. In 2011, there are more urban people than rural dwellers. And this trend line is expected to continue, and by 2100, we expect that most people will be living in cities. And at the heart of cities is the so-called transport system. Even in Singapore, this is a very important aspect of their, there is a very huge sentiment on transport system because it's a way of life. So this is a system that we developed for the Singapore government initially, but eventually we also use this system to help SMRT. SMRT is a $2.5 billion company working on transportation, and eventually some startups, etc. So the core of this platform, so this is an interactive panel where immediately at any point in time, you will be able to see, this is the first component, very basic visualization, you will be able to see how many people, how long it will take to go from one point to any point in Singapore. By having that visualization, you'll know immediately which are the locations that are not very accessible. And if you know that location, then you know the locations where you should be sending shuttle buses because this is the population that is not well served by the community. At the core of this platform, this interactive platform, is the simulation component where we have simulated the entire public transport system of Singapore, trains and buses. So you can see here trains and buses moving at the same time. And in fact, if you zoom in, okay, you will be able to see, so the resolution, okay, there. You will be able to see people actually getting out and inside the station. And at any point in time, you will see how many people are in the platform. Okay? You can click any location. So for example, I click the location there, the Raffles Place, and you will see all this information, how many people are tapping in and tapping out, how many commuters are in the station, the waiting time before you get to catch a train or a bus. And you can do a lot of scenario modeling, okay? You can disrupt one location, okay? Disrupt one location and understand how that disruption will impact the other locations. Okay, like for example here, I am disrupting Clementi. And notice that the impact of disrupting Clementi is not just disruption along that line, but a station 10 kilometers away from Clementi is also compromised. If you have this platform, you'll know where to send your shuttle buses, for example. And you'll know what is the impact of disruption if you respond 30 minutes later, if you respond 1 hour later. Okay? And so this is for, you're looking at the train, we can do this for the buses. So this is, for example, buses. Okay? The reason why SMRT also wants this is because then they can plan on how to make their routes more efficient. So some of the things that can be solved with this platform includes, one, they would like public transport to be the choice mode of their commuters. But the problem is our forecast states that if the total number of unique commuters in the public transport will reach 3 million, when we are working with this, there are about 2.2 million commuters, we expect that there will be an exponential delay. Okay? So those are the things that you can quantify with this platform. You will be able to quantify what will happen if you make those commuters who are arriving early at the station free. Okay, we can quantify how will that impact the congestion, especially during peak hours. So note that it is a work, and the goal is to have an island-wide management system, because transport system impact many things. It impacts the satisfaction level, health status, spending patterns, even energy consumption. The energy that we're consuming because we are here is different if we are at home, among others. Second statement. Data science and AI will make accurate and fast predictions, allowing actionable insights. So now let me consider a problem that we have done with Manila Water, an Ayala company. The question that they asked us is whether we can predict the Angat water level. Angat Water Dam serves 1 million households in Metro Manila. 180 meters is the magic number. Too high, and if there is rainfall, it can cause flash floods and lost lives. Too low, and there is no rainfall, and that it can cause water shortage. Now, the goal is for us to make a prediction of what will be the water level of Angat Dam. They can do that within 2 weeks, but we demonstrated that using machine learning, using deep learning in particular, we can extend it to 6 months. What is the difference if you can extend it to 6 months? Actionable insights. You can do intervention. And in fact, we have given this system to them 2 years ago. They are still using it, and they are so happy with the prediction. So they bagged in 2017 Asia Innovation Award, and one of the reasons why they've got that, one of them, actually the main reason, is because of this system that they've done. You can see that our prediction is the solid line for 2018, and the dashed lines, or this is a fairly new slide, and the dashed line are the actual data. And you can see all the way to August, our forecast is almost perfect. Okay? This is what data science can do. Or you can do, again, let me emphasize, one of the focus of those who are in the academy is to publish works, right? To publish articles. And with data science and AI, you can publish these articles, especially if you have a very good domain insight on what are the problems in that area. So in this work, we have used AI, we have used deep learning, network science and AI to automatically identify core regulatory genes. And this is useful to make an accurate prediction of one's propensity for diseases, drug tolerance, and of course, it improves drug designs and can power drug discoveries. Third, it simplifies and allows you to understand better the salient parameters. So again, one of the big projects that we have, this is a $10 million project. The question is, what constitutes healthy aging? And they would like us to develop a measure of the difference between chronological aging and biological aging in the Asian context. There is one for Caucasian, but this is one specifically targeted for the Asian population. So we've been monitoring 3,270 senior citizens for a period of 10 years, and they are monitoring 1,340 variables. But this problem is a multidisciplinary problem that if you want the different experts to actually communicate, you must be able to reduce that number of variables. So using AI and network theoretic, we were able to reduce this to 40 communities with about 97% accuracy in predicting frailty conditions. So with this, we have a better now way of looking at what constitutes healthy aging and understand biological age compared to chronological age. So we also were able to understand how daily habits and diseases are clustered and generally related with frailty conditions. And this is another work on cities. Okay, we develop a model to try to understand how cities naturally emerges. And we demonstrate that there are just two important variables that you need to look at, diffusion and aggregation, to be able to understand how the cities grow. Diffusion is important because you want to maximize resources. But aggregation is also important because there is safety in numbers. Okay? So these two combinations we demonstrate can be used to, for example, model the evolution of Singapore as a city. You are looking here at three colors. The red one is the industrial area. The blue and the green one corresponds to the business and the residential area. And we checked that this same model can be used to model almost all cities around the globe. And finally, it can provide insights on undecided population and consumers. This is an old work, a work that we have done previously with PAASE Asia. Actually, the husband of Ma'am Esther Garcia is a co-author of this work when we've done this with PAASE Asia. And the goal is to forecast what will be the eventual decision of the undecided population. Okay? if the competition is between Duterte and Rojas, the undecided decision will not matter. But if it is between Leni Robredo, for example, and Marcos, okay, it might matter. Or between Trump and Hillary Clinton, it might matter. So what we've shown here is that you can look at the less controversial questions and you will be able to figure out how eventually that individual will make a decision. Now, PAASE Asia is a professional survey organization in the country. So, in the last 3 minutes, allow me to mention about the school that we have at AIM. This is the first time that we have participated at PAASE. This is a very new school, School of Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. We have our own beer. Because if we want the geeks to talk to the entrepreneurs and the innovators, I think we need to put some alcohol, okay? And that beer has a 2% alcohol content, 2. That is 2 times 3.14, 6.28%. So 3 of the 6-degree programs of AIM is under this school. We have the Master of Science in Innovation in Business, the Master in Entrepreneurship, and the Master of Science in Data Science. The Master of Science and Data Science, the program director is currently here, Erica, there. And our Master in Entrepreneurship is legendary in a sense that about 700 plus household brands in the Philippines are actually products of AIM, including Potato Corner, okay, Sogo, Victoria Court, Cafe Mary Grace, okay. For the graduating batch for this year, for example, every student, the businesses that they enrolled in this course had an annual revenue of about 200 million pesos or $4 million. Our MS Data Science, I will give a brief introduction later, but half of our students are fully sponsored by companies in the country. So just to give 4 highlights about the various site initiatives, again, we have launched the first data science program in the Philippines. In fact, our Master of Science in Innovation in Business and Master in Entrepreneurship are also the very first in the Philippines and among the very first in the Asia-Pacific region. So these are those students, and this is in response, of course, CP David is here, and Frost Naval is here. They know that we need an army of data scientists. Okay? So this is the first batch, the inaugural batch. We have some of the best minds in the country. No? 2 of our students have actually PhDs. One in physics, a top student here, and the other one is a ComSci PhD. And we have the HR head of Procter & Gamble in Asia Pacific, etc. We have even one of them is even a president of a company with more than 2,000 employees, semicon company. The reason why AIM is generally special is because there is a strong commitment of non-academic stakeholders. So these are some of the guys who actually sponsored and provided capstone projects for our students. So again, 19 of the 42 students that we have are fully sponsored, and a good portion of them have even allowances. Just as an example, 19 project submissions. So our capstone and our thesis, we don't need to ask for what is the value of that thesis because that value is already given by the company. So the company will provide a question to our students. Our role as a professor is to make sure that that problem will be novel enough. And they pay $5,000 to $10,000 just to have a buy-in to the program. You know that this is very valuable to them for them to be giving us that amount. We are committed to nation building. For one, in the next 12 months, we hope that we will be able to launch this AI 10-10-10. It's not 10-10-10, where our goal is to have a nationwide initiative of educating the top 10,000 students across 10 regions for 10,000 minutes on AI. Okay? And we've been writing our textbook on this, specifically designed for the Philippine and Asian context. Every problem is based on an actual problem that we have worked with various partners. We also have this A2A for MSMEs. This is we call this Access to Access at AIM. That is the name of our data science lab. It's a trans lab for MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises to gain access to critical capabilities in data science. So we are moving with this proposal. We've been constantly talking to ASEC Aldaba for this specific proposal and eventually a center of excellence on urban livability. And finally, this is one of the goals, of course, we create innovation and thought leaders for Industry 4.0. We now know, again, as I've mentioned a while ago, that implementing policies and strategies based on intuition alone can be inferior. It can be expensive, time-consuming, and sometimes catastrophic when wrong. So this is the Access Lab. This is the first corporate lab of AIM, or our data science laboratory. It houses the fastest AI supercomputer in the Philippines at 500 teraflops. It is within top 5 in ASEAN. Our last number is that it is only second to Singapore. It is a donation from Istanshi, he's in the board of governors of AIM, and he is committed to making this a success. We have 3 projects right now with Acer. So we've been, similar to the discussions this morning, we've been bringing and trying to bring those talents abroad, okay, brain gain, to this location. So we have full-time data scientists. So, for example, Christian Alice used to be a big data scientist from Imperial UK in UCL. Okay, Erica and I were from Singapore, and we're bringing another Singapore colleague soon at AIM. Nisa is from Vienna, Dr. Josephine Kabatbat is from Korea, and we have a new NYU recruit from the location of Michael. Just to give you a perspective on what are the various projects that we've been working, okay, some example, these are some of the live projects that we're doing right now, trying to quantify and predict the trajectory of urbanization across the archipelago. We're working with probably the biggest conglomerate in the country. And of course, this is obvious. The implication of this is obvious. If we know which municipalities will eventually be cities, then there is a very good business proposition to get more lots in that location. We are identifying features for a human-machine interaction to make it more efficient. Value is very defined. Every time that we can increase by 1% the efficiency between human and machine, each of their machine costs $500,000 to $600,000. They told us that they will increase their annual revenue by $1 million. That's a very defined value. And the problem is very complex too. And another one is building an AI model that reconstructs the decision-making process of a portfolio manager. This portfolio manager of one of the top equity firm in the country is retiring. He is retiring, and they want to make sure that his style, his thinking process, will be captured somehow by a computer or an AI. So, maybe to end my presentation, one of the things that I learned, if you put AI, okay, if you have a better understanding of data through data-driven tools like data science and AI, is that you will be able to lessen a conflict of opinion fighting against opinion. Because if there is an opinion versus opinion, who wins? Okay, seniority wins. Okay, the one with the louder voice will win. But if you have opinion versus data, data wins. And if you have data versus data, then the smarter data wins. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I think your second army of data scientists is in the audience now.